One of the most important aspects of farming, of course, everybody goes for the big ones, such as the dairy farming and the wheat growers and the barley growers, but the other big one, of course, is poultry. And with me today, Chris Schutte, the CEO of Astral. Chris, you were once part of Tiger Brands, but it's now a big change, isn't it?
Good day, Tony. Yes, I think Tiger were focusing on brands at the time, and primary agriculture was too volatile for their portfolio. So a decision was taken in the late 90s to unbundle agriculture out of Tiger. And that is how Astral came about. They first tried to sell the companies one by one or individually, and it didn't work. So all the companies were taken out and hosted under a new company called Astral, which was separately listed, completely out of the Tiger's store.
I don't know whether you can answer this, but you just used the word volatile, which is a very explosive word. Why did they view it as volatile?
I think because in primary agriculture you have macroeconomic influences, like for instance the weather, that play a major role and can play havoc with grains or raw materials, influencing your margin, and you don't have control over that, and that didn't fit the Tiger portfolio.
So they wanted the secure investments as opposed to the risky but high return investments, if the risk was quantified.
Yes, obviously in hindsight you can see that the timing was a bit wrong, because just after the unbundling, the poultry industry had excellent growth for about 8 years, up to early 2009, almost doubling the production of poultry. So I think the timing was out by 8 years.
Let's look at that poultry, because I was amazed, if I've got my facts right here, 6 million chickens consumed in South Africa every month?
No, Tony, I think that's related more to mass, but this country currently produces close on 20 million chickens per week. So if you multiply that by your 4.22, we're talking closer to 90 million chickens per month.
Consumed in South Africa?
Yes.
That is an enormous amount of chicken.
Yes, but besides that, we import another massive amount of poultry products into this country on top of that. So yes, poultry is by far the biggest player in the protein parcel of the consumer.
So you must be one of the most important farming contributors to the food chain in South Africa, if not the most important.
Well, absolutely, and I don't think people ever go and sit down and make that sum and see the important role from a number of aspects that poultry play in this country. The first thing is, people don't know that we are by far the biggest consumer of maize and soya in this country. We consume, the industry consume close on 2/3 of the yellow maize production in this country. So we play a massive role there. So it is not just the maize, but we also add value to maize, creating jobs locally. And the other benefit to that is, it is not in the cities, it is in the countryside, and that's where you want to create jobs and create wealth, is in the countryside. So our farms are not in Joburg, they're out in Standerton, out in Rustenburg. So that value chain is very important to understand for this country.
Do you assist, will you assist, or are you in favour of encouraging aspirant black or previously disadvantaged farmers into the poultry scheme?
Well, Tony, once again, that is one of the things we aspire for, because what poultry do is it's a value addition to maize. So we take a basic food stuff like maize, we add value to it by producing a chicken. But in the process, we create a huge number of jobs. And it's in the right geographical areas. It is not in the cities, it's in the countryside, and it fits in exactly with government's long-term plan, but we just don't talk about it.
But what do you do to assist it?
What we do is, because of the high entry barriers for a fully integrated poultry operation, where you need premix plants, feed production plants, you need rearing, you need genetics, you need hatcheries, you need broiler houses. then abattoirs, then a cold chain distribution network. That is not easy to enter, but there are specific areas and pockets where we do accommodate. And currently we're very successful in the one area in the countryside where you get a contract producer who can own 2, 3 or 4 poultry sheds, and he only participate in the lower entry barrier area of this value chain or the integration. So we would supply him with a day-old chick. He would manage that farm with technical assistance. We would supply the nutrition or the feed, and we would take the reared chicken at approximately 35 days of age away to an abattoir processing plant and sell it, and he would make his margin on rearing the bird, which will be sufficient to cover the capital outlay.
Are you currently doing that at the moment?
We're currently doing that, and it's very successful, and it's proven to work very well, but it's not quick enough. Now,
Why?
The reason is we are hampered growth in this country for a number of reasons. First of all, the imports is playing havoc in our industry currently. We import products from abroad. We come and sell it in this country almost at a price lower than what we can produce it here. And that is a whole different kettle of fish, because currently the margins for poultry is negative as we sit here on this day today because of high input cost, maize being at record high levels, and the inability to recover that input cost in the market because of the influx of poultry meat.
Now, we all know that brine is injected into chickens to fatten them up and make them more weight. Is this not now becoming a point where even the housewives are getting a little bit fed up with our local chickens?
Well, I think it's an area of concern. The brining thing came about not because to add water or value, but many moons ago you had 2 products. You had either a fresh chicken cut up or a whole frozen chicken. But a whole frozen chicken referred to at that time as a soccer ball, which you can revert to from your history, is the minute you defrost it, you lose the natural moisture in the bird and it becomes a piece of rubber. So the idea of brine injection was to replace the natural moisture and some basic stuff that will enhance your experience of the bird. But over the years, the injection method evolved into injection cut-up portions. And today, the most known value item in a retail store, that's why you will see the newspapers full of 2 kilogram IQF, individually quick frozen. And that is the product where we believe that brining is most probably now starting to play a negative role in the perception of the quality of chicken and also with the housewife experience.
Would you call it abuse?
There are certain markets and products that are abused by injection. We simply believe it is no longer the reason why it was initiated, and somewhere there will have to be sanity. On the other hand, if you are bombarded with imports below your production cost and high input costs because of maize exports, you have to survive. One of the mechanisms for a specific line in your product would be for some producers, and that would exclude the high brands in the market because they will do damage to your brand. People will try to inject more just to break even. So it is not a very quick and easy solution is to remove it. But I believe in the future there should be better control, quality control, measures, and in some intervention, even if it's a self-control intervention, so that this does not do the industry as a whole bad. Because if you go and look at your big brands, poultry brands in the market, and that includes some of my own brands, you simply can't do damage by just excessively injecting birds.
Well, let's move on now to the final part of our interview that I want to talk about, and that is your move into the rest of Africa. Now, I've spent many years up in Africa, in Zambia, Tanzania, and so on. And I remember Yoweri Museveni, who was the president of Tanzania, kept coming to me, when you're sending farmers up to me, when you're going to arrange for farmers to come up. And it seems that it has happened, because in Zambia, there are many Afrikaans farmers that have gone there, together with the Zimbabwean farmers, and now Astral's moved there.
Yeah, the whole Africa thing is very exciting. And it's almost sad to say that you're now currently in a position, because of a number of negative things in this country, but on the balance, a lot of positive things just north of us, that you're starting to channel your capital out of this country into other African countries. But it's also exciting. If you look at a region, it's very positive for us. But we would like to invest more in South Africa. But the investment conditions currently is outstripped by the potential north of our borders. So we have to take cognizance of that. And our venture into Zambia and Mozambique, and currently I've got a number of soldiers running around in other African countries, and it's not soldiers.
I was going to say, let's clear that up. They're not the army type soldiers.
No, definitely.
The worker ants.
They are scouts to go and look for opportunities. And all the information coming back is very pro-investment in countries that we never thought about would become part of our portfolio or even of our aspiration. Something like Ethiopia. 90 million people in Ethiopia. Their per capita consumption of poultry, 1 kilo, versus South Africa at 35. So huge opportunities in these countries.
Does that mean we will be exporting grain into those countries because they're not self-sufficient?
I hope not, because that's an expensive exercise, is to ship grains around.
Well, how will you work if there's no grain available in these countries? I know Zambia is self-sufficient.
Now, that's one of the challenges, and that's why we're in Zambia, and that's why we're in Mozambique. Mozambique is very quickly becoming self-sufficient, and it's got nice harbors, so if you have to import, but it is small scale, so the raw materials required there is not to the same extent as here. So you almost have to grow as your raw material production grow.
Isn't there a message that one should read into this, almost like a moral? Don't chase the farmers out of this country because they're welcome next door.
Absolutely, because it's about the most critical thing, and that is to prevent hunger and obviously to produce the cheapest source of protein. You cannot live on maize alone. So poultry and maize go hand in hand. The only difference is we add value to maize, create jobs in the countryside, and poultry by far remains the cheapest source of protein. Do you know, Tony, that as we sit here today, the average price of chicken over the past 4 years has remained flat? You can now buy poultry at 13 Rand a kilo. You can't even buy water in an upmarket outlet for 13 Rand a litre. So it is something we should consider.
Chris, thank you very much. Before I let you go, a final little present that I give you, an imaginary present. You can now address everybody that's important to address by asking for something for your industry. What would it be?
First of all is, we all know what the challenges are, so we don't have to divert into that. The solution is a fully integrated plan with all players, inclusive of government, to align our strategies, our aspirations, to make this great country even better, and at the same time ensure that we have got food security and continuously create jobs.